Hi, we're at NAMM 2018, and we're speaking with Nick here at Korg. Korg has some very impressive products out, including this new one. Can you tell us about the Korg Prologue?
Absolutely. The Prologue is our latest analog synthesizer. It's a professional performance analog synth. It's 8 or 16 voices. This is the Prologue 8 right here, which has 49 keys. There's also the Prologue 16, which has 61 full-size keys. You have 3 oscillators, 2 of which are analog VCOs, the third of which is an open source multi-engine, which has digital waveforms and also a wavetable oscillator, but can also be customized with user definable oscillators. And the effects section is open source as well. This has, for the first time on an analog synth in this series, stereo effects. They're 24-bit floating point DSP based, and you have a mod effects engine, phasers, flangers, choruses, and an ensemble similar to the original Poly 6, and then delays and reverbs. So you have your tape delays, hall reverbs, nonlinear reverbs, stuff like that. You of course have the oscilloscope display, just like on Minilogue and Monologue. And the filter is all new and has been revoiced for polyphonic play. It has a huge low end, even when you crank the resonance. And of course there's pulse width modulation on the VCOs. And a really cool thing about Prologue is that it is multi-timbral. So you can load up multiple different timbres, split and layer across the keybed, or crossfade from one timbre all the way up in the other. It's got 500 sounds, 500 program spots, 250 which are preset and 250 are user. And of course you can use the editor librarian to overwrite all 500 with your own sounds if you want, and of course back up your sounds to your computer.
Now, what does this mean in practice, the open source waveform?
So once the Prologue is released, there's going to be an SDK available, and you're going to be able to code using C and C++ your own oscillators and effects algorithms, and then using the editor librarian software, if you're not coding inclined, you can download a program for the multi-engine or the effects engine that somebody else has created and put it on your very own Prologue.
Okay, so that's kind of a sophisticated new thing. Is there any parallel for that in the market?
There's really no other synth that we can think of that is anywhere close to the capabilities of Prologue. And Prologue is, for the first time, the multi-engine, the effects engine. There is really no other synth that sounds quite like Prologue.
Is this based on the architecture from the Minilogue?
It is similar in architecture. The VCOs have a similar architecture, but the filter, the effects section, the arpeggiator is all new, dedicated, and revamped. And even the things like the portamento knob on the front panel, there's voice spread, so you can spread the voices in stereo. There's so much that takes this to an even higher level from Minilogue.
Now, you were saying this is the 8 voice and this is the 16 voice. Is that the only difference between the two?
The only difference between the two, well, there's a couple differences. There's a couple front panel controls on 16 that are handled in menus on the 8, and of course the 16 has an exclusive LF comp, which is an analog compressor designed to rein in the dynamics of your low end, and it even has its own analog gain stage, and that's available only on the 16. It's great for live play because it's post-master, so you can rein in the dynamics of your low end, save your front of house guy. Super useful.
You know, one of the things I like to do is talk about the history of the companies. Could you talk about the history of Korg?
Korg has been around for a very long time. We are one of the heritage, longest running synth manufacturers in the world. Korg started way back as an organ company. That's where the org in Korg comes from. And we started with, for example, the first ever electromechanical drum machine. It was called the Donkomatic, kind of a funny name. And then we basically had a string of firsts with Korg all the way from the first electromechanical drum machine, the first handheld tuner, the first affordable polyphonic synthesizer analog with the Poly 6, and then kept going with the M1, which was the first ever workstation back in 1988. I'm skipping over a couple of the biggest historical accomplishments, but one of those is, of course, the Micro Korg, which is the best-selling synth in the world, 15 years in the running. This is the 15th anniversary, came out in 2002. And then, of course, 2 years ago, we had the Minilogue, which was just an absolutely groundbreaking, the first polyphonic analog synth under $500 to ever be released. And we're continuing to break ground with Prologue, one of the first open source analog synthesizers ever created.
Now, I own a Kronos. Has there been any new developments with the Kronos?
So the Kronos hardware, its current version, is the most powerful workstation synthesizer in the world by far. And the Kronos' software is continually being developed. We're going to continue to release firmware updates and, of course, sound packs with our partners such as KA Pro.
Kudos to Korg. Thank you very much, Nick. NAMM 2018.